And good morning and welcome. Today my guest is Deborah Hollins, and Deborah is from Nanaimo Family Life Association. Good morning, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good, Ian. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you. Now, this show is about living to be 100, right? That's kind of a good news, bad news thing, right? We might live to 100, we might not, but even if we do, is that really good?
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of debate on that at the moment. But hey, before we start, I'm just going to give a bit about your background, okay?
Sure.
Deborah's a social worker with a rich history of working with marginalized and vulnerable people and community development. She came to the Nanaimo Family Life Association in 2012 with an abiding belief in resilience and healing. Looking forward to hearing about that. And as such, she works to cultivate equity, to live in a balanced life that's deeply connected to community, and to apply ethical values to actualize meaningful social change. That sounds amazing.
It does, doesn't it?
So just like from a high level, tell us about Nanaimo Family Life.
Nanaimo Family Life has been a really important resource in our community since 1967. So we have a long history here in Nanaimo. We are a multi-service agency, which means that we service people from all walks of life, all backgrounds. We have multiple areas that we cover. And really our goal is to build upon people's own sense of internal resiliency so that they can live life with dignity, independence, interdependence, and with having the best relationships that they can have.
And you work with a wide variety of people.
That's correct.
In Nanaimo. Why don't you just walk through the different people that you're helping?
Absolutely. So our programs focus multiple areas. We have programs currently for youth who are living with anxiety and depression. So for young people who are living with those particular difficulties, we have peer-led groups that come together and talk about issues relevant to them. We provide counseling services to approximately 1,500 individuals in Nanaimo a year. Those counseling services are low to no barrier. So that means that money is not a barrier. If you can afford to pay, we ask for a very small cost. If you can't afford to pay, then those are free. That is an incredibly important service that I don't believe people really see just exactly the service that provides, because what we know is that when people can engage in a relationship with a counselor where they're heard and validated, it can alleviate so many issues and so many problems that are going to compound later. And so for many people in Nanaimo, they're not working in a job where they have an employee assistance program. Right. And many can't afford the average $125 an hour for a counselor. So we provide a service that's filling a huge gap. We also have programs that are for men. We work in the area of domestic violence. And so for men who have engaged in abusive behaviors in their relationship, we have a very intensive program that walks them through a journey of being able to really look at the kinds of relationships they want to manifest in their life and how to be able to do that. We also have a follow-up group that is for fathers who want to establish healthy relationships with their children. We have we're the only organization serving the trans population in Nanaimo. So we have programs for trans adults who are looking for support and resources that are non-discriminatory and respect their dignity and their personhood. We service a large number of seniors, and we service on any given day approximately 400 seniors a day in Nanaimo. And those seniors or those services are designed first and foremost to help seniors age in place. And what that means is, not having necessarily to give up their homes and go into a care facility if that's not what they choose to do. Those services are designed to help seniors through the COVID-19 pandemic. So when COVID-19 hit a number of months ago, we were asked by the United Way of the Lower Mainland and the province to provide COVID-19 responses to older adults in the Mid-Island region, which is a much larger region than just Nanaimo. So lots of services for older adults.
Let's talk about that for a minute. I was doing some research earlier. There's, I think, about 6 million people in Canada considered seniors. And I guess in your definition, that's 65 plus. We're still using that as the number. Are we? The age?
Number, but that is the number, but it is not really the best number. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Many seniors in Canada and in our own community are marginalized. So these are people who are living in poverty. People who are homeless. Senior years can start much earlier than 65 because of the nature of the struggles that they face in their lifestyle. Quite often, we're looking at 45-year-olds who require services in much the same way as the traditional 65-year-old might need. So yes, many of our services look at 65 plus, but we're also very flexible given people's lifestyles and where they are and how we can help them.
And is this a growing need? Like you can sense that, boy, this is really coming on more and more.
I have been the executive director of Nanaimo Family Life going on 9 years now. And in my time, the need amongst older adults in our community has grown exponentially. It has been quite an eye-opener for me. I don't come from a background of working with older adults. This is my first exposure, and it's been a learning curve, a very well-received and reinforcing learning curve, but a learning curve nonetheless. We're seeing issues for older adults, not just the number of older adults, but the issues that they're coming forward with, really becoming quite concerning in our community.
Now, the issues can range from homelessness to healthcare.
Homelessness to healthcare, and unfortunately also into elder abuse, which is a dynamic that we are seeing more of with the onset of COVID-19. So if you can imagine being a family in that sandwich generation, you have young teenagers at home, plus you're caring for elderly parents. We're seeing frustrations growing, and we're having older adults calling us saying, my son pushed me for the first time, or I'm afraid that my children are losing their home and I'm having to dip into my savings. And so there's a lot of pressure out there, and that unfortunately quite often it is the older adults who are the most vulnerable who are feeling the impact of that.
You're right. Many of us don't know any of this, do we?
Many of us don't, and
No.
And it is so important that we really get to see the depth and the breadth of the issues that are facing older adults in our community. Quite often, those are behind closed doors. Quite often, that generation of older adults comes from a generation where you don't complain, you pull up your bootstraps and you keep marching on.
Yes.
And so, we see, for example, a growing concern for men over the age of 60 who are moving into retirement. They come from a very traditional belief background that tells them that their worth is what they bring home and how they provide. And when that's gone, we're seeing that there's a higher, in fact, men over the age of 65 are the highest population likely to successfully follow through with suicide in Canada. So very serious issues. We also know, for example, that men, again, especially from that generation, aren't likely to reach out for help, right? They're not picking up the phone and calling a counselor. That's just not part of how they know themselves to be. So we are trying to create programs that address that and engage those individuals in a way that is respectful for them and their life choices. But yes, there are so many things that we don't see, and lots of information out there if people are curious.
Let's just drill down a little bit deeper in a few of these topics here. Homelessness for seniors. What, if someone finds themselves in this situation, what options do they have?
Well, quite often they don't have a lot of options. If you don't have family, if you don't have income, or if your income is severely limited, your options quite often are, we know that there are people that are living, or seniors who are living in tent city in Nanaimo, for example. These aren't people who are drug addicts. These aren't people who are engaging in criminal activity. I myself spent a couple of hours in tent city with a woman who was 63, and she had lost her job as a nurse. And because of that loss of job and some life issues that happened to a lot of us, she ended up homeless and was living in tent city, just trying to survive day to day. We like to think of kind of people as, for example, homeless people as being one, kind of person, and they're just not. There is diversity in that group, as much diversity in that group as any other group. And we have found that for seniors living in their cars, living in tents, or quite often couch surfing, right, to places where they can, hopefully find a place. That's sometimes their only options. At Nanaimo Family Life, we had a woman who came into our offices. Again, she was in her late 60s. This is a woman who suffers from some extreme mental health issues. And she had been banned from a number of the organizations in the city. They would not work with her. However, this is still a human being. Still a person who has, some very severe issues that she's coping with, and still needing help. And yes, quite often as an agency, we're left just having to advocate, calling organizations, advocating to get, help from governmental agencies. And sometimes that's the only thing that we can do. It's very frustrating when we're confronted with those kinds of issues.
And yet the need is growing.
The need is growing. And I mean, I can speak to our particular, to Nanaimo in particular. We see a lot of seniors who, if not homeless, they're precariously housed, right? So their housing is dilapidated, dangerous quite often, needs significant repairs. They're living in mold and mildew, which creates health issues, and having to choose: do I pay my rent or do I pay for my medications? Do I pay for rent or do I buy healthy food this month? Those are the kinds of choices they're often forced to make.
Well, this is pretty deep stuff, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's what we're seeing. And, the days, I think, of you work for 25 years or 35 years and you get a pension and you're set for life, those days are done. And, especially with this population. We also know that within the seniors population, women specifically are at higher risk for homelessness and poverty, because again, this demographic has worked through extreme inequities, right, in their lives, as they have tried to, oftentimes relied on their husband's income. And so once they're aging, their husbands are gone, quite often these women are left extremely vulnerable. And so we have created programs at NFLA to educate the public on that. But really what we need is a very significant federal and provincial plans to target aging and the needs of the aging in our country.
Well, it's difficult. We had the mayor on at a meeting a few weeks ago, another meeting, and it's very difficult at the local level here, isn't it, for them? It's not really their thing, and their budget isn't set up for this, is it?
It is. And that's the, it's difficult for municipalities to target this issue alone. However, municipalities do have a responsibility, a significant responsibility in ensuring that there is safe and accessible housing for all people, but specifically for older adults. That can be done, by agitating and advocating, calling out the funders that need to be called out, engaging in creative practices, re-looking at our priorities as a municipality and what really do we need to be doing to target this. What we see often in the service sector, and I'm not suggesting that this is what's happening, but what we often see is what looks like a passing of the buck, right? The cities are passing the buck to the province passes the buck to the feds. We've got to stop that. And all the leadership has to sit down from every level of government and say, how do we eradicate this in a humane and just society?
Do you see the need for, get back to housing again? I think everything starts with being homeless. I think as a purpose-built place just for seniors, or is it better to integrate with the wide variety of community ages?
There's this studies show that whenever there can be intergenerational relationships, that really helps with isolation. Younger people really lose out when they don't have access to older adults in their life. There is a wisdom and a richness that comes from those relationships. So it is a two-way street. And so we know, for example, that in Europe, there are a lot of excellent models for intergenerational housing that are working, that are working and working well. I'm just going to close my window.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, it's COVID. We're all in the middle of stuff, aren't we?
So
awesome.
Sorry, that's
awesome.
There are programs in Europe and other places in the world where they have taken an approach that includes all generations in housing, and that would be the best case scenario. When you lump all people together, that doesn't necessarily serve anybody. Kind of creates these these warehouses, and that's not at all what we're looking for. People need and deserve to live rich and exciting and fulfilling lives up until the day they die. And we have neglected that, I think, when we look at our older adults too often now, and we need to start re-looking at, yes, how do we keep these people engaged and significant in our communities?
Now, when we first started, you said you were helping 300 or 400 a day.
Yes.
That's a lot. To me, on the outside, it seems like a lot.
It is a lot, and yes, we are very busy with this work. So we have a program that's called Better at Home. Better at Home is a provincial program. There are over 100 Better at Homes across the province of British Columbia. And what that program is designed to do is to support older adults to age in place with non-medical support services. So what we're doing in those kinds of situations is we're doing friendly visiting. So we're partnering, let's say, a volunteer with a senior to call and do check-in calls or do a Zoom call once or twice a week. We're doing light housekeeping. Quite often for older adults, that's the first thing that starts to go, right? Is, the house becomes hard to keep up. So we provide light housekeeping. We provide some lawn maintenance as well. We do grocery shopping and delivery. We have a senior peer counseling program at Nanaimo Family Life where we train older adults to be able to sit and be in a supportive counseling relationship with other older adults. So yeah, very busy at the best of times.
I'm busy, and it sounds like there's lots of room for people to volunteer then.
We have, thank you, so many volunteer opportunities right now. At the start of COVID, I was so moved by the response of people who wanted to help seniors specifically. And we had just such an overwhelming response of individuals. And now, understandably, we're people are going back to school, people are returning to work. And so we're, you know, a lot of the volunteers have had to get back to their regular lives, and that's completely understandable. But that's left us with, you know, kind of a real need for people to step forward who might be willing to do things like, you know, do a grocery shop for a senior and deliver those groceries. Again, that is such a significant, you know, way of helping. Being able to give a call or do a friendly visit once or twice a week. Social isolation amongst older adults is the most significant health issue facing older adults today. And recently, a study came out that the effects of social isolation on seniors equals smoking 16 cigarettes a day. So that,
Wow.
yes, that is the effect that social isolation has. So if you could imagine being an older adult who is socially isolated, you know, you have very limited contact with the outside world. You have depression. You know, you are, you know, probably not moving. You know, sitting on your couch a lot.
Yeah.
You know, not engaged, and the health ramifications of that just grow and grow and grow. And so yes, many of our programs, we have at NFLA a program called TAPS, Therapeutic Activation Program for Seniors. It is designed to bring seniors together to support healthy connections and healthy lifestyle. So we do a weekly chair yoga. We do weekly walking groups where they get together and walk in groups. We have a book of the month club that we are looking at, you know, that's an intergenerational program where people all read the same book, and then we have a Zoom discussion group. So these kinds of things connect people. And when you're connected, you also have access to resources and options, and you know, life just becomes so much richer and more interesting, and you know, it sort of starts to build on itself.
Yeah, excuse me. I certainly see it in my business. You know, the people that just kind of run out of gas, the tank's empty, and they're not really sure where to go. So I mean, this is excellent information that clearly many of us aren't aware of and need to be more aware of, and hence I'm glad you're on here today. What if someone wanted to say, hey, this is great, Deborah, what do I do now? What should they do? Reach out to you?
You mean a senior in need?
Well, both, a senior in need, or Ian and Carol, my wife and I, hey, we want to do something. What?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So if you're a senior in need, number one, call Nanaimo Family Life. If we don't have the ability to help because of perhaps your needs don't fall under our mandate, we will make sure you're referred to appropriate resources. But yes, please do direct older adults to give us a call, and we'll do what we can. If you're somebody who is just wanting to help, if you are wanting to volunteer or donate your time or your money or your resources or your intellectual, property. Yeah. Give us a call as well, and we will respond to that very quickly, because we know that, again, volunteers in the Nanaimo Family Life have a long history with us. Generally, we carry around 80 active volunteers at 80 given time. We do, we have training, we have, depending on what role they're wanting to take, we do have training for our counseling volunteers and for our friendly visiting volunteers, but there is lots to do. And a lot of it is a lot of fun, volunteering and helping. And again, just, especially if you're an older adult who perhaps you don't have these issues. This is a great way to help others that do. Or if you're isolated yourself and you want to, get out there and roll up your sleeves and help, this is a great way to get connected. So yes, give us a call and we will be more than happy to find a place for you.
Well, and I think that's so important. The research I'm doing, obviously, on this podcast about living longer and longer, it's the reason to get up in the morning. What am I doing? Why would I bother getting up today? And if you don't have the answer to that, one thing leads to another. And this is a way to get a spark. Is that the right word? Get a spark inside yourself.
I love that visualization. I think you're absolutely right. And, living longer can be a blessing or it can be a curse. And again, it depends on, the supports you have in your life, the resources that you have and your ability to be or stay connected in your community. And that spark, being able to feel excited about your life, whether you're 15, 50, or 90, right? It's an essential part of being a human being. And, you know, that is the best of us. And so that's what we're hoping to do, is help people reignite that spark when it might go out.
So let's bring this all the way back to the beginning. Nanaimo Family Life, how does it work? Like, is all your money, you're funded by the government, or tell me how it works?
We have no core funding. Like many nonprofits, we don't operate with core funding, and that is that's difficult on any organization. Sure. Because every year, or every year generally, we're reapplying for funding and having to re-justify all the time about what we're doing. So you're kind of left in that position. But yes, most of our government, our money comes from government contracts. That might be a year or 2 years. We get funding from the provincial government. We get funding from the United Way of the Lower Mainland. We also get funding from the United Way of Central and Northern Vancouver Island. We are funded by Island Health, and then various other funding bodies that might be smaller in nature but still very important.
Is there a specific project, or is there something going on that people might want to donate their money as well? I mean, we have time, but some people are more fortunate and want to support you. How would they do that?
Yeah, if you're interested in donating to Nanaimo Family Life, you can go onto our website at nflabc.org, and there is a option to donate through there. If you have a specific program that you want to donate to, for example, if you're interested in donating to seniors care, we'll direct the funds into the place most needed at that time. If you want to donate and your funds be donated to, let's say, our youth programs, we will direct the funds there. But yes, all of our programs rely on the generosity of donations, and we welcome anything that people can help us with.
And would the donations be used for more staff hiring or equipment, or what would it be used for?
Yeah, again, that would depend. So generally we have the staff we need. That money usually comes from, is built into our funding. But the things that we might be looking at are things like, we need, for example, with COVID-19, what we were finding was we couldn't be offering our programs inside because, obviously with, stuff that we're dealing with. So we wanted to purchase some new equipment that we could be offering chair yoga outside for seniors so that they could socially distance and also have a good time. So we needed funding for awnings in case, the weather wasn't great, or, the funds will go towards those kinds of things quite often, or walking sticks, when you're an elderly person and you want to take a walking program, right? We want to be able to provide them with sturdy walking sticks, so to prevent injury. Your funding can go to help making us more accessible, right? So we recently, in the last couple of years, installed an automatic door so that people in chairs can, be able to access our building. Right now, what the agency needs is we need some work done on the outside of our building to make it safe. We have a patio, but that we can't use it because it's starting to rot. And so, but that patio serves for a lot of our gatherings when we're taking a break. People can go outside and sit in nice weather, and it just, again, it's a more fulsome experience. So lots of places where you can dedicate your money, and that's always appreciated.
That's terrific, Deborah. Well, thank you very much for joining me today. This information has been fantastic. It's been great.
And thank you so much, Ian, for doing this show. It's really important that this information gets out there, and I'm happy to do it with you. Thank you for the service you're providing.
Terrific. Now, one more time, getting a hold of you is through email best, or what's the best way?
You can reach out to Nanaimo Family Life through email. You can reach us at reception@nflabc.org, go to our website, and we're also on Facebook. Just search Nanaimo Family Life Association on Facebook and you'll get our latest announcements.
Sounds great. Thank you very much and have a great day.
You too, Ian. Take
Okay.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.